Okay. Says it's live.
Wow.
Well, let's see if it's starting yet because it says 9 p.m. Oh, I think we are on.
Yes.
Hey everyone. Welcome to the live kickoff event for Tennis Summit 2018. I'm really excited to have my great friend Peter Freeman, who we've talked for hours about tennis and just how to grow the game and everything. So Peter, what's going on? How are you?
Well, I'm excited to be part of the Tennis Summit. And I'm also honored that, I'm helping you kick it off. There's so many awesome coaches. We were talking about, Gigi Fernandez, Jeff Salzenstein, Ian Westerman. The list goes on and on. So it's great to be here. And I want to commend you on putting this together for a second year in a row, because I know it's a lot of work from doing TennisCon. So it's a great thing that you're doing.
Appreciate that, Peter. Yeah, it's an honor to have you on, and you did a fantastic job with TennisCon, and obviously people should check that out at some point. And it's coming up soon again this year, I believe. So if you guys are here, can you just kind of just type hello, or actually type where you're from? Either one's fine. I promise I won't stalk you. And yeah, just do that for us, and then that would be great. And yes, I just want to educate the audience about Peter for anybody who doesn't know about him, which that would be crazy. I mean, you're just so active. You have a fantastic YouTube channel, and to give kind of a bio of you, so Pete has coached Division I college tennis players. He's produced state level and national champions, and he's also been awarded the prestigious honor of USTA Georgia Pro of the Year. He creates tons of great content on his YouTube channel and on at his website at crunchtimecoaching.com, I believe. Pete is also coached under Tony Palafax, who was John McEnroe's former coach, Johnny Mac, a legend, and Frank Brennan, who's a former Stanford University coach who's won 10 national titles. Above everything else, Pete has a really huge passion for the game. I see him post all these videos of him teaching students, kids of all ages. And, he also hosts free clinics sometimes. It's really incredible, how much you're giving to the game, Pete. And obviously you have the great online content that you're doing after and before you're teaching. And he had a great presentation last year on the Tennis Technique Summit on how to hit a monster topspin forehand. Just great stuff, and he's got a great presentation this year on slice serve, big money plays for the slice serve. And like we mentioned, Pete hosted TennisCon last year, which is fantastic. Everyone should check that out. And last but not least, Pete has been kind enough, in addition to being on this live stream, to give everybody a special gift, which is a slice serve course. It's a very extensive course that'll teach you the technique you need to hit a great slice serve, and you should look for that in your email. And for whatever reason you don't see it, which you definitely will, then just shoot me an email. But I know I blabbered on too much, Pete, but again, so happy to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. And absolutely, guys, take advantage of that slice serve course when you do sign up for the Tennis Summit. And if you have any trouble at all getting in, I promise you the course is there. I think for the most part, people are getting in fine, but you can always email me at crunchtimecoaching@gmail. So it's awesome to see everybody. It's cool to see where everybody's coming in from. We got, Dayton, Ohio. We got Washington, D.C. We got Arizona. I mean, this is just awesome.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I love these things, man, because you just see everybody and where they're from, and typing questions. And obviously, we're here to field your questions, but we also have a theme in mind for today's presentation that Pete's going to give as well, called, I believe, Pete, Building Your Game One Brick at a Time. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to do a presentation tonight for everybody. I think it'll be very helpful to kick off this tennis summit. So as you're going through all this great coaching, you can kind of get an idea of what parts of the game you might want to build first, second, third, depending on what your level is and what style player you are, and what your goals are for the game. So our topic is building your game one brick at a time.
Awesome. Awesome. Appreciate that, Pete. And so obviously, like I want to let you get into, how we can build our game one brick at a time, because sometimes it's really tough for us. We have like all these different areas of our game we want to improve, and we feel kind of overwhelmed. It's like, where do I start? Do I start with my backhand, with my serve? Like, what's the most important? Happy to let you take it away for a bit.
Okay, cool. I am. Before I get started, I do see that Jackie, I do got to acknowledge this. Jackie posted that she just got back from the Monte Carlo Masters. That's pretty cool with Tennis Margins Media. So I'm sure she had an awesome time. I'm super jealous. And Vamo Rafa, you are an animal. So the guy just keeps going and going. So let's get into this topic tonight. I mean, we are not Rafael Nadal. I'm not Rafael Nadal. Mehrban, you're not Rafael Nadal. And I know that a lot of people that follow my coaching out there, it seems like the sweet spot is we got a lot of players between the 3-0 and 4-5 level, especially 3-5 to 4-0. And I think that what is different about the people who study tennis online, which I give tremendous kudos to, is they have a passion to where they're not looking to get to just one level. They want to figure out how to master their level and then move up to the next level. Guys, if I'm right on that, give me, yeah, Pete, you're right, or absolutely, or what? Hey, I'm a 2-5, yeah, but I'm sure that you probably want to go and grow your game, and that's what I love about the people who do the online tennis. And so I want to, first of all, just start. And so if you are a 4-0 or 4-5, I'm getting to you, I promise. But I just want to start in the sweet spot of a 3-0 to 3-5 player because I know that, what is sexy and what you might want to get and maybe what's really weak in your game and you feel like is holding you back from getting to the next level. Actually, I don't think it is. Okay. So if I were to coach you from the ground up and give you different skill sets, and we're more talking about technique, we're not talking about, the physical part of the game, gain shape, the mental stuff. That's a whole other ball of wax. But if I'm just talking about technique and what I would build in your game so that your game would be have a solid foundation at the recreational level and definitely move up to the next level. That's what we're going to do tonight. So anyway, the audio is working, definitely. So maybe you could interrupt me from time to time and let me know if people have great questions. So you guys ask your questions, and here we go. So I think the first thing that you want to develop, and let me hear, before I tell everybody what it is, what do you guys think if you're a 3-5 and you want to get to the 4-0 level? What do you think's the number one thing you should be working on, the first shot you should be working on to be able to do that? You're a 3-5, you want to play with your 4-0 buddies. What's the first thing you should work on? Let's see if we can get some comments there. Serve. Just want to stay competitive at 4-0 as I'm approaching 70. That's our tennis con over. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Serve returns, forehands, returns. Returns are big. Yeah. Okay. Forehand rally. Great. Oh, Bryant just came out and, well, he's the Dr. Bagel Maker. He just came out and did a lesson with me, Mehrban. Serves, returns. I love the return idea. I'm more just talking about like strokes specifically. So I think a lot of people, and we've heard a lot of people say serve, you'd think serve. But why I'm putting serve further down on the list is this. I don't think the people at the 3-5 and 3-0 level are going to punish you enough for having a bad serve. Not to say that it's not important to develop your serve and to get a really good serve, especially if you do want to go up and start playing with 4-0 and 4-5 players. But I think a lot of people get too worried about their serve when they have other holes in their game that really needs fixing. And you're not getting killed for having a bad serve at 3-0 and 3-5 tennis. It's very hard for people, I find, to consistently beat up on a serve at that level. What do you guys think? Now that you're really thinking about it, would you say that that's true when you go out and play a match? I mean, if you have a weak second serve and you're a 3-5 player, are people really killing that serve of yours? So I would put that on the back burner for a little bit. Guest 666 ASDF says,
love that name. That's a good name.
Says you are right. So I would develop, here's what I would develop first: a forehand topspin rally ball. You will stand out from your competition if you can develop a forehand topspin rally ball, and it will help you in singles and doubles, because a lot of people do one up and one back at the 3-0 to 3-5 level. So you can totally dominate play, especially if you're playing doubles, because then you could potentially not even have to hit a backhand all match. And a lot of people, so if we're looking at this tennis board here, they're thinking forehand, I want to crush the ball. I'm actually recommending that you hit the ball higher over the net. We're talking 3 to 6 feet over the net, high ball that can back your opponent off the baseline towards the fence, so that you, if you're playing singles, can start to get short balls. If you're playing doubles, you can start to get approach shots, and you can also probably help your partner poach a lot and put a lot of balls away. So I'm not talking about hitting a ton of forehand winners. I'm talking about developing a rally ball that goes fairly high over the net, that's very consistent, that you feel like you could make 100 balls in a row. Does anybody have any questions? What do you think about this so far, my friend?
Yeah, I think that's super important. I mean, I totally agree. You know, at this level especially, you just want to be able to, you know, have a consistent rally ball that you can keep going. I mean, you know, I think the most successful people at these particular levels are the ones that are just really consistent and doing well. And hey, I mean, you're going to get a great workout too, you know, if you can do that.
Guest 559 says, how do you find what level you're at? Here, they used to have where you could go and get evaluated by a coach, and they would turn that into USTA. I don't believe they do that so much anymore. You can, am I right or am I wrong on that? I think you have to self-evaluate, and you can probably find information online, which basically, so just kind of Google it, you know, how to find your rating, and it will give descriptions of what your skill set is most likely at each level. And you kind of self-rate, and then as you get into leagues, the system kind of rates you based off wins and losses. Am I right on that, or am I wrong?
I think you're pretty much correct. I think the vast majority of people, you know, if you don't have access to a pro who like Pete, who can like look at your game and assess, you know, like you just self-rate. You play USC leagues if you like, and then they'll just kind of adjust you based on your wins and losses. So you could pretty much like know where you're at after a few matches or a season or so. Because I don't think like generally people like they have like you know, groups where they will assess you, but I think they used to do that. But I can definitely find that out if you want. Just email me the question.
Well, a lot of people right now, I mean, this is what's so cool about this talk that we're having and getting together as a community. A lot of people are giving, you know, USTA.com, self-rating. I mean, they're giving out the answers, and that's what's so awesome about this. And there was one guy in a little French cap that said consistency is the key as we get back to our topic. So far we've put the forehand in our cap, right? We stuck that forehand feather in our cap. We feel pretty good about it. The next brick I want you to build is I want you to build a solid backhand that can't get bullied by the competition. Because, you know, if you got this great forehand, people are going to start to recognize that, and they're going to be looking to go to your backhand. And if they're good enough to find it, and there are some 3-0, 3-5 players who can control the ball, and if they can find your backhand and you don't have a consistent backhand, or you don't have confidence in it, you know, that can really, really hurt your game, and people can kind of just pound on that backhand and bully it around. So I think the next thing you want to develop is a backhand. And this is what I think is interesting. And maybe you guys are not thinking about this, but if you have a one-handed backhand, again, I think we naturally want all the glory shots. And so you might think, well, I'd love to rip a one-hand topspin backhand like Roger Federer or Stan Wawrinka. And of course we all would, but but that would not be the first backhand I would build if I had a one-hander. If I had a one-hander, I would get really good at chipping the ball. Why? Because you can do a lot with that chip. You can, if you're really good at it, like Steffi Graf was, it's hard to attack a chip ball at recreational level, because if you have a really good chip, you're able to keep that ball low and skidding. And so people can't get a good, clean swipe at it. And also, if you have a one-handed backhand, you can hit a chip up high, you can hit a chip at your waist, and you can hit a chip down low. And that's probably the main reason why I'd say work on really developing a good chip first. Plus, it tends to, with amateur players, it tends to be more natural for them if they have a one-hander to hit it, to develop a chip first, and a topspin for a one-hander seems to just be harder for people to get and a longer project. Plus, when the ball gets up high on a one-hander, it is very difficult to do anything with that ball. So I would recommend you really get a good chip, one that you can consistently hit deep in the court so you're not getting attacked. When you get a short ball, a chip shot is a great approach shot. And when you are having people attack you, don't freak out and think that you have to hit these awesome one-handed topspin backhand passing shots at a 3-0 and 3-5 level. So you're just giving away a bunch of free points. Get really good at two things. The Ivan Lendl low chip cross court at the feet that he used to do to Johnny Mack all the time. And hopefully you guys remember who Lendl is. And get really good at a one-handed chip lob. In fact, that is probably your biggest weapon and your first go-to play when someone is attacking you and you're like, uh-oh, now they're attacking my backhand. We're not in this comfortable backhand rally anymore with my one-handed chip. Now I've got to pass them. No, just hit a high lob. And people at the 3-0 to 3-5 level cannot put away an overhead, okay? Barely at the 4-0 level, to be honest.
Right, right. And Pete, so just a quick question. I think you kind of covered it, but oh, shoot. Tennis Brother 2 says, what do you do when you have an opponent who seems to push you back with a rally ball on the backhand wing with a semi-high ball? What's the best play there?
That's a great question. So that is one of the tough things about a chip is you do want to figure out how to stand your ground. You don't want to back off the baseline too much with a one-hand chip. That's why I say you really want to develop it. So you want to be able to stand your ground and take those balls high and push into the court. If you do have to back up, just be aware that when they see you back up, they may be running in. So if you have any doubt, just chip your backhand a high lob, and you'll either just still be in a rally or they'll be running to the net and trying to attack you, and then they have to hit away a tough overhead. So if someone backs you up on a chip ball, just lob it. Don't try and go back there and try and hit a knifing slice back there, because you probably won't do it. I'm just talking, just moonball it back in and reestablish court position on the baseline.
Right, right. And then just to clarify, I mean, Matt, good question asking. He says keeping the ball deep on both sides is so important. When you say chip, do you mean slice? Because chip always sounds like short balls.
Yeah, I'm right. Thank you. What I'm talking about is a one-handed slice, and you want to develop a long, flowing, connected slice that you can keep deep and low so people cannot attack you. So that's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Great stuff. Great stuff. Let's see. Guest 270 is kind of asking a question. Well, he's saying 3-0 to 3-5 need consistency, a reliable forehand and backhand deep works. Okay, that's more of a comment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, if you have a two-handed backhand, it's the opposite. Since you got that other hand on your racket, right, you're going to be able to handle high balls. So you're going to be able to hit through those. And top spin is going to be more natural to you, especially because you can kind of use that top hand to roll the ball. So you want to develop your top spin backhand if you have a two-hander. And again, I recommend, rather than trying to rip the ball 1 inch over the net like Jimmy Connors used to do, think more Mats Wilander style and have a nice heavy topspin backhand. Basically, I think it's so important at the 3-0 and 3-5 level to be able to keep your opponents back off the baseline, because that's going to make them feel uncomfortable. That's going to give you short balls, and it's almost impossible to lose if you're really good at it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, I think the key, especially like say when I was playing 4-5s, if I was able to keep the ball deep for a few shots in a row, then they would cough up the short ball. So I mean, if you can master keeping the balls deep, then you're in really good shape.
Yeah, guest 958. And I do want to say hello to Patrick from Savannah, who keeps
home state,
because I'm from Georgia and we got our heart broken this year. But that's a completely different subject. But tips on the backhand lob. And here's another thing. I think whether you have a two-handed backhand or a one-handed backhand, you should be very comfortable with a one-handed slice or chip lob. And what you want to do, here's a great drill you can do, is get your racket face in a volley position, open it slightly, and feel your shoulder and just start to raise your shoulder over and over again. That's the motion of a nice lob, okay? And so rather than put the pressure on yourself that someone hits a big top spin approach shot at you, or they hit a nice slice at you, rather than put the pressure on yourself to hit a one-hand topspin lob or a two-hand topspin lob, just feel your shoulder, make sure you have the right racket at angle, and push up and get that thing nice and high. You don't even have to put it right on the baseline. Just get it beyond the service line, and people are going to have a really tough time with that. Are you guys liking this information? Is this making sense? Yeah, Guess 899 says deep and down the middle, you'll be famous by Friday. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wise words from Vic Braden. That's true. Yeah. Let's see. Go Gators. Excellent. 958. What type of spin are you putting on the lob?
Yeah, a slight underspin. A slight underspin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Cora here from Scottsdale, Arizona. Thank you so much. And people are saying it makes sense. So that's cool. So do you see this, guys? Now we've developed your forehand and your backhand. These are the first two things I want you to work on so that you're solid and consistent and you're not giving away matches, okay? What kind of serves do you recommend for a player with neck issues? That's a good one. We'll get
not a kick, probably.
Yeah, not a kick. Maybe just even a little low toss slice might be good if you have a continental grip. Otherwise, you can just frying pan it in. Especially, it depends on your level. If you're a 3-0, 3-5 player, I might even just recommend a straight frying pan in, no stress on the body, and develop all these other skills. Okay, next. Now that you're doing this, you're going to start to get a lot of short balls. And so now we need to really work on your mid-court game. After you are a consistent tennis player, now we've got to start to capitalize on a lot of opportunities you're going to get. And again, here's where I might be different than what you're thinking, especially when you watch TV. And I'm not, one thing that you guys might start feeling is like, oh, I'm just an old school coach. I mean, I have a semi-Western grip. I love to teach a buggy whip, Rafa Nadal forehand. I love swinging volleys. But here's the thing. If I'm coaching you and going, I want to coach you up so you're going to go out and win rather than look good, I'm going to give you an awesome chip approach shot on the forehand and backhand side. Thank you, Scott. Scott said great information. I'm going to give you an awesome chip before I teach you how to rip the approach shot. And there's several reasons for this. And the biggest reason is I want you to think about ripping an approach shot. If you can come up and, think about how Roger Federer comes up and smokes his forehand approach shot. It is a thing of beauty, okay? But let me tell you something. That is a luxury sports car. That's a Ferrari that you're looking at. It looks simple, and when you look at it and then you get an easy short ball, you're thinking that you should be able to do it because it's so easy. That's a shot that even when you develop it, why do I say it's a high performance car? Meaning that it can do wonderful things for you, but it always is going to require a lot of maintenance. You need to be practicing those short balls all the time because everything's got to be on point. Your footwork to the ball has got to be on point. Your preparation's got to be on point, and you got to be confident enough to have your racket head accelerate through the ball so you can get it up and down over the net. And you got to get there quickly because you don't want the ball to drop below the level of the net because then the shot becomes so tough. So you've got to read it quick. You got to do a lot of things right. Guest 974 says, thank you for the slice serve course. So that is one big reason why I want you to develop a chip first. The next thing is when you come up for that short ball, and if you don't have absolutely perfect technique, and the score is 5-all, 30-40, you get a meat ball. Tell me how confident you are ripping that ball. Be honest. How confident are you that you have to come up there and hit a winner, a blind smoking winner? That's hard to do. That's really hard to do, especially if you're rated between 3.0 and 3.5 or a low 4.0. So difficult. So even myself, I was a pretty good junior player, college player, but I don't play anymore. I'm every day I'm more of a coach than I am a player, believe me. So I'm not in match shape. It would take me like probably 3 to 4 months of consistent training the way I felt like I needed to compete, that I would feel confident when a short ball came up to rip it. If I'm going out there tomorrow and I'm playing anybody and the score is tight and I get a short ball, I'm going to chip that thing because I know that I'll probably make that shot because the technical difficulty is a lot more simple. I basically just have to push through the ball, and if I can push through it and keep it low, there's a good chance I'm not going to miss it, and I'm going to put the ball low on my opponent, making them come up with all the talent. So rather than getting a short ball and putting all the talent on you to where you're there and you got to prepare and you got to rip, I much prefer at a recreational level the talent having to be provided on the other side of the net as much as possible. Think about that. Rather than you going out there and playing and trying to show off all the time, think about putting the talent on the other side of the net and see how they do with that. What do you think about that, my friend?
I love that advice. No, I definitely do think that, you want to kind of play within yourself, and you don't want to just rip balls when you're not confident, and that's going to lead to a lot of, not unsuccessful times. But I was also just obviously looking at the questions because they were just streaming in, and so I'm trying to figure out where to start. But okay, let's go with, I'm just going to start from the beginning. So guest 47 asks, oh God, I'm trying to scroll here. All right, let's go with, yeah, go ahead. What's that?
No, nothing. How often should you run around backhands? Okay. That's a great question. And so here's a great answer for you guys. Okay. How often should you run around backhands? Well, the questions are, how good is your footwork? How good in the shape are you? How awesome is your forehand? How bad is your backhand? Just because people are doing it on TV doesn't mean we have to do it. The more I play, I will start running around more backhands to get to my forehand, and the more confidence I build. But if my footwork's not on point, you could make a footwork mistake getting to the ball, and by the time you're there and finally run around, you're off balance. So you got to have a great first step if you want to run around and run around your backhand and hit forehands. You have to have a solid forehand that's developed, good timing. And then I say do it as much as possible. But if you are running around and Jeff Salzstein actually talked about this too, if you're working really hard to run around and hit a forehand off a backhand, and you're playing singles and you're not very fast at getting back in position, you're basically leaving 75% of the court open to your opponent, who sees this and goes, oh, I'm going to hit it over there because it's so obvious that's where I should hit my next shot. And, you might be putting yourself in a lot of trouble.
Exactly. You got to be able to run around it quickly enough too. Otherwise you're going to spray it wide. Yeah. So, let's see. Wow. So many questions. How do you control short balls to make sure you do not overpower them? Yeah.
Okay, so how do you control short balls to make sure you don't overpower them? I'm going to give you my first answer, which is, first of all, learn how to be very good. Get great technique in your hands for a volley, because here's the thing. Learning how to chip a ball is not easy either. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some development. But I think it's less high maintenance than ripping a forehand. So once you work through it and get the feeling of it, you can be off for a couple of months, get a short ball in a tough situation, take the ball at different heights, low, high, at your waist, and chip through it and hit a pretty good shot and not be freaking out about, oh my God, I got to rip this ball. If you are going to come up and rip a forehand or a backhand, let's say forehand, because that's what most people want to do. What I want you to really think about is keeping your hands out in front and having no backswing. When you're seeing a short ball, most people will think, I got to kill this thing. So they go back way, way far. But the more you move in, every step you move in, the court becomes smaller. So your target gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So your backswing has to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And I like to tell people to have it out in front and to not pass their belly button and then go. Because here's what's going to happen. There's no way you're actually going to do that. You're going to think you're here, but you're really going to be here. You're going to think you're as far as you go back, and you're really going to be here. Even if I tell myself, Pete, don't go past your belly button. When I watch myself on video, my backswing always goes past my belly button. So you got to be super short with it. And if you want to rip an approach shot off the forehand, you got to catch it at your chest. Basically, my just do it level, this is where you want to hit the ball. Here to your nose, this is where you really want it. And you want to feel like you're hitting downhill on the court.
Perfect. Great stuff, Pete. Great stuff. Let's see. In doubles, would it work better to rip a forehand shot down the middle when you get a short ball?
In doubles, would it be better to rip a forehand down the middle? Again, it all depends on where you are. Like, I always end up doing this. This might be a mess, guys. I'm going to stand up and try and go to the board. And I always put the board too far away. Let me take my headphone off for a second, and you can take over for a minute here, and I'll just reset.
Sure. Sure. Down the middle solves the riddle. That's a good one. Let's see. 348 says, who's psyched for the tennis summit? I am. Let's see what else we got here. A chip requires you to control your wrist so that you cut the shot motion short with your wrist to create the abrupt chip. Good observation there. Chip.
Okay, I'm back. So we're talking about doubles, and we're talking about hitting an approach shot up the middle. Now, let's just assume you're right-handed. I'm a lefty, but let's assume you're right-handed. Now, if you're on the ad side getting a forehand, it's easier to hit this approach shot up the middle. And I think it's a great play. It takes away angles from your competition. And most likely, if you get a short ball and you're hitting it, the net player is going to be not so anxious to poach. They're going to be a little nervous. And for most people, I believe, if I'm thinking about this right, it's going to be their backhand volley. So if you get a short ball here, to rip it up the middle on the ad side, I think is a good play. If you're getting the same ball here on the deuce side, and you have a two-handed or one-handed backhand to take it up the middle, I find it's tough to do because this player right here, when they go to poach, it's their forehand side. So they might steal more of those. And you're probably not hitting the ball as hard with your backhand as you are with your forehand. Also, if you have your forehand over here and you're trying to hit up the middle, now that angle is going, if you're hitting right through the net strap right there and the ball's going to end up, well, it's probably not even going over the net strap. It's more going here to get to the middle. See, the ball has to go here to get to the middle. If you hit through the net strap, it's actually going to end up here. So this basically is right to the net person when the ball's out here. So hopefully that makes sense and distinguishes when you should go up the middle on an approach shot.
Great stuff, Pete. So 774 asks, when you're out wide, do you hit cross court or down the line? And I'm not sure if this is singles or doubles, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great thought. There's a couple of things. It all depends on, I think, let's say you're playing doubles and you get out here. Well, it is nice because you can almost hit a down the line shot, a little cross court, and bring it into the court. So I think it's a good opportunity. I'm still thinking of it as a risk, and I do it once in a while for fun and enjoyment, because we do want to go for our shots, and it's a good time to go down the line. But at the same time, if it backfires, I'm here, my opponent's here, and all they got to do is put this volley here, and the point is over. So if I'm not perfect on this, I'm going to lose the point, and there's also a chance I might miss the shot too. It's a little risky. So I will do it because it's a good time to do it, but I will not do it the majority of the time. If I get pulled out here, I'm going to do a couple things. If the shorter I am in the court, now it's a good opportunity to hit an angle. So it's getting by the poacher, it's angling, and now it's getting my opponent off the court, because it's always a good play to return an angle with an angle. If I'm further back and off here, I'm probably going to hit a high ball cross court, because what I want to do is realize, okay, I got to think like a boxer. I got to cover up. And I'm thinking, okay, lob it back, reestablish court position. And lots of times when you hit your lob, when you hit your defensive shot, if you had a really good defensive shot, lots of times you go right into offense because the person gets backed up and they end up hitting a short ball. So that is what I would do with that.
Great stuff, Peter. And so guest 4 asked, 819 asked, does moving forwards add velocity to a short shot? So I have my thoughts, but I'll let you handle that if you like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's saying, does moving forward and through a ball add power to your shot? And that's absolutely right. Too many people try and add their power through their hands and their arms. And if you can learn a little hop and skip technique in the midcourt, you will A, hit the ball harder with less effort, and B, get out of no man's land a lot easier, so you will have a much easier first volley.
Gotcha. And one great question from guest 603, which, I've had trouble with, my partner and I, shout out to Victor, I don't know if he's here, but he or she asks, in doubles when I serve, how do I handle the lob return over my partner's head?
In doubles when I serve, how do I handle the lob return over my partner's head? This is great. Okay. Great question, because this is where a lot of people make a mistake. First of all, you and your partner should talk before a match. And I would tell my partner, especially when I'm playing 4-0 tennis or lower, or maybe we'd talk, and I wouldn't tell them to do this, but if we kind of both agreed, any lob that's going to go past the service line, I'll take that, because if you're hitting a ball here, you're not probably going to do much with it. You're either going to miss it or hit a weak shot, as far as statistically speaking, when we're talking about recreational tennis. The biggest mistake I see is, you got server here, your partner here, returner here, net person here. That's the setup. What I see too often is people just react without thinking, because they're taught hit cross court, hit cross court. So the biggest mistake I see is this person lobs over the net person, the server runs over here, and out of instinct and habit hits the ball cross court, and they hit it right to the net person, and your partner who's switching gets clobbered with a ball. So what you want to be thinking is just like a robot. The ball is lobbed over your partner. They're moving over here. Your opponent is either A, staying back, or they are moving in. Either way, just hit a high, heavy ball. Hit a high, heavy ball that would be a tough overhead, or move them back to the fence. And your going to establish a down the line rally now than a cross court rally. And you're again looking to kind of play that game of chicken. Don't be in the rush to hit it to this net. Usually the person who goes cross court out of this little pattern loses. And so be comfortable and confident in this down the line rally. You're either going to make them miss, hit to your partner at the net, or you're going to get a short ball and come on in. Great stuff, Pete. I mean, I would also add, you know, you want to adjust to so your partner who's at the net. If you know they're going to lob, you may want to have your partner stand back a little farther so that they can, you know, reach the overhead quicker. So that may be something else you could think about too. But yeah, great questions. Let's see if we missed any. So there's, okay, great question here. 320. What are some of the best patterns that will help win at the 3-5 level? Okay, some of the best patterns. People are saying great stuff. Thanks, guys. I'm actually making a course called Break Their Serve, Break Their Spirit right now, where we're getting into a lot of patterns, because a lot of it starts, a lot of your decision making and starting at a point depends on what side of the court you're standing on and all that kind of stuff. I will say, just in general, that Will Hamilton, who just released his singles playbook, it was solid information, and he talked about the idea of first of all, trying to get into a shield-to-shield rally, to where a shield is basically like your defensive shot and a sword is your offensive shot. And I thought that was really cool the way he put that. And so the sword for most people is their forehand, the shield is their backhand. So lots of tennis, especially at the recreational level, you're going to get in cross-court rallies. And so a lot of times you're going to be in that shield-to-shield, the backhand. And then your goal is, if you are developing an offensive, forehand, then as the rally kind of gets more established in a rhythm, you can eventually start to cheat over a little bit and then turn it into a sword to shield rally, to where you're hitting your strength to your opponent's weakness. That is why Rafa Nadal, for many years, did have the upper hand on Roger Federer. Is the way they were set up cross court, naturally it was Rafa's sword to Roger's shield. So it wasn't really a fair fight in some ways. All right, great stuff, Pete. And I know you had a presentation, but these questions are just amazing. So let me know whenever you want to transition. No, if you got more questions, I'm happy to stay on. I'm not in a rush. This is my plan for the night. Excellent. Me too. Dedication here, but having fun. So 181, great question. You know, tough one. So he asks, he or she, I think, how do you play a match with a guy who doesn't miss? What do you do, Pete? Oh, wow. Shake their hands and say, you're awesome. No. You can do that too. No, seriously. Again, here's the cool thing about where you're at playing matches that you're playing. You got all these different types of players that you're playing against. You got the pusher who doesn't miss. You've got the banger who can crush a ball. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy's got the biggest forehand or the biggest serve I've ever seen. But remember, they're not on the pro tour. There is a reason why they're 3-0, 3-5, 4-0, or 4-5. And even myself, I am certainly, there are weaknesses and holes in my game for sure. I mean, they can be found, okay? So everybody on this call, I don't think, no one here is a professional tennis player. So everybody has their Achilles heel. So if you're playing someone who never misses, you have to think, well, what is most naturally their weakness? And in general, someone who never misses, they're very comfortable from the baseline. They love it back here. And then they also, lots of people who are happy to be consistent, kind of think of Bjorn Borg playing the French Open. They're very comfortable going back and forth and back and forth. They love to move side to side. And if you come to the net, then they also like targets so they can pass you. So you're like, what am I going to do? Nothing's working. the one thing I would test first against when I figure out someone's very consistent is to hit a short, low ball to their backhand and put them in a tough situation to where they know they have to produce some offense and they're not in a comfortable position to do so. Like, make them come right here. And now they have to decide if they're going to run all the way back here or if they're going to stay at the net. And I would do that a lot and see how they handle it.
Love that. Love that. Great stuff. Let's see here. Ooh, good one. 647. How do I keep myself from hitting a mental roadblock which impacts my playing performance at a recreational level, specific to singles play?
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm seeing that right now. How do I hit a mental? Here's the thing, guys. Guest 647. I like your hat. We're a different breed, the people who are online right now. And that's a good and a bad thing. You're here because you're dedicated, because you love tennis, because it's your passion, because you want to get to the next level, because you're looking at recreational players at your club and going, well, they're fine just hitting the ball like this. And they seem like you probably don't even get it. Like, how can they enjoy that? They go out there, they're a 3-0 like 30 years in a row, and they're not even hoping to get to the next level. They just seem to love their little, like, I don't get it. That's what you might be thinking. So, but they do kind of have a little bit of a psychological advantage over us in that they're content in their game. They're content at their level. And so when they go out there, they're not playing tennis with all this angst of like, man, I spend so much time on this. I go to the tennis summit online. I follow Pete's courses. I follow Jeff's courses. I follow all these courses, and I'm still not getting to the level I want to be. And so you're putting all this pressure on yourself, and it's kind of it's a lot easier said than done. And I don't know exactly how you deal with it, but what I would suggest is enjoy the journey, enjoy all the learning. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that you have to get from point A to point B so quickly. And that will help you, I think.
Great stuff, Pete. One that, if you don't mind answering, obviously, I don't think you mind. Guest 906. This is for a 10-year-old kid's question. So basically, how do you improve a 10-year-old kid's interest in tennis? It sounds like she's very passionate about tennis, but then suddenly changes her mind. So how do we keep her momentum of interest in the game? And Pete, I know you're really good at this because I've seen you with so many kids, and it's just really fun to watch you, highlight their successes and things. But yeah, what do you think about this question?
Well, at 10 years old, and I would like to know how good is this 10-year-old? Do they have a state ranking? Are they just getting started? Like, what level are they at? It's different, I think, because there's different reasons kids are playing the sport. But above all that, it should be, especially at 10, it should be fun. You shouldn't push too hard. You shouldn't make it, maybe you want them to play and they're not excited about it. She is 15 in Georgia at the state level. That's pretty good. Oh, that's okay. At 10 and under. Awesome. We'd bring her out. I'd love her to hit with Caleb, who is just turned, he just went in the 12 and unders, and he was number 6 in the state in the 10 and unders. But the thing is you have to keep it fun. You have to do that. But at the same time, if they have some talent and they want to, and you know that they want to go far too, I think one of the most important things is I do think we let our kids quit stuff too soon. Like, just because they're not happy. 10-year-old number 1 at Mid-Atlantic. Yeah. So, I mean, if we've got these kids that have good rankings, or even kids just starting, I think one mistake that we make as adults is let the kids go from sport to sport and activity to activity, because anything you do is going to, for the most part, start out fun and bubblegum, right? Because whatever program you go into, if the instructors are good, whether it's taekwondo or tennis or piano, the first thing is, hey, let's just make it fun. We want to introduce you to this, have a positive experience. And so the kid goes, wow, it was really fun. It was just fun games, nothing serious. And I really enjoyed it. And I learned something. But then as time goes on and you get to a certain level, you're going to start to get good. And two things are going to happen. The coaches are going to require more work from you because they have to, because they see that you have talent and can go somewhere. And number two is you're going to plateau. Everybody plateaus. And usually what happens is when kids go through this rush of getting good and then all of a sudden they face their first hurdle, they want to give up and try something else. And I think it's a mistake to easily let the kids do that. I think you've got to give them a life talk lesson and say, look, I can put you in something else right now, but that's going to get tough too. It's going to be fun, and then it's not going to be fun. And what most people do in life is they do things while it's fun, and then as soon as it's not fun, they quit and try and do something else, and then they never commit to anything. So I don't know.
It's a tough one. Very tough.
Yeah.
Let's see. Somebody. Oh, Eric. Interesting question. Eric asks, I sometimes jump when hitting a ball to generate more power. Should I be doing this? What else should I do to create more power so that I don't jump? Okay,
great question. What was the person's name again?
Oh, man. Eric.
Eric. Okay, Eric. Here's an answer for you. First of all, it's a great question. If you've heard of the kinetic chain, it talks about how power is built from the ground up. And if you've ever followed Rick Macy's coaching, who's an excellent coach, he talks about ground force. There was even an old school video of Vic Braden with Roscoe Tanner, and they're serving, and they're measuring the power and the movement from the ground up into the racket. So to get power, you will lots of times see Federer jump into a shot, Rafa jump into a shot. You guys feel free to jump into a shot. That's fine. And if you can do, but here's the thing. You've got to have control over your body. You've got to get to a point where you feel as balanced jumping into a shot as you do on the ground. If you don't jump. Here's my best analogy I can give you. When LeBron James goes to do a layup in basketball, not a dunk, but a layup, to where he jumps up on one foot and lays it in the basket, he's completely unbalanced and he makes his life easier for him. But the key is he's got 100% body control in the air and he's 100% in control. If you've ever watched somebody who is a beginner basketball player, they'll run out the basket. They have no idea when to jump. And when they jump, they're completely out of control and they'll slam the thing into the backboard, if you've ever seen that. I've seen that because we have kids, come and we'll play basketball from time to time. So, with those kids, you'd rather them stand and shoot. It's easier on them. They have more control over their body. So my answer to you is if you have complete body control in the air, jump. If you don't, stay on the ground.
Great stuff, Pete, as usual. Let's see here. 647 has a good question as well. How do I keep myself from playing like a 3-5 player one week and then playing like a novice player who can't even hit a forehand or backhand the next week?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it's these building blocks that we're talking about. It's developing what we've talked about so far is developing your forehand, your backhand, ground strokes, then developing a chip before your rip, and then we're going to get into volleys, overheads, and serves. But here's what you have to realize. Most of you here on this call, your job is harder than a lot of players at your club. And I think it's more interesting. It's a more interesting journey you're on than the people who don't even care to get online and learn tennis. And they don't care to take extra lessons and they don't care to do any video analysis. But a lot of you right now are developing your strokes and your strokes look better than your competition. And so you're dumbfounded on why are you losing when you're putting all this time in and your competition isn't and they're winning. Because if they have decent, and I did a YouTube video on this today, by the way, if they have decent hand-eye coordination, it's very simple to match the ball up with the strings and put the ball in play. And they're not, again, they're not frustrated with their strokes. They're not trying to develop better strokes. They're just like, hey, let's go out there once a week and do this. And I find it wins a lot of matches. And I never lose a 3-0 match. And I just keep doing this. And I win a lot of 3-5 matches too. And I'm a pretty good athlete. So I find that I can even hit angles and make people run. You're trying to watch a Roger Federer video and set up like Roger and stroke like Roger, and you probably look better than most people at your club, but your technique is not fully developed. So what happens to you and why you play well one week and bad another week is you can go out and practice and feel pretty good and think everything is good, and you look across the net and you're like, I have pretty good technique compared to most people, but your technique is not fully developed yet. And so the leaks in your stroke are going to come out in matches against people who can make you play a lot of balls.
Great stuff. So I'm going to go to John's question because he emailed me about this as well. So have you ever heard about a teenage girl, or I guess guy as well, who is just too nice on the court and does not call balls out? And he kind of describes how she's a freshman in college and lost a tie break, and she knew the ball was out, I think on match point, but called it in because she thought she'd be questioned if she called it out. And the coach got upset as well because apparently he watched her play 10 balls that were out. And so any suggestions to kind of help, maybe psychology-wise or whatnot, to help a player like this to call the balls, when they're out.
First of all, I think you should tell her you're proud of her, honestly, because there's so many kids doing it the opposite way. And this is where here's the thing I strongly believe about our kids playing tennis. You know, so many people go, what's wrong with American tennis? My philosophy is absolutely nothing. Most kids that get into tennis are straight A students. They go on to get really good college degrees, and they get amazing jobs that will just crush the average pro tennis career salary. You know, so and tennis does it better than any sport. I mean, I've seen kids with a lot of money come into our program. I've seen kids with no money come into our program. All races, it doesn't matter. The kids that stick with tennis, they always get all A's and they're great kids. And if this girl is on match point, choosing not to cheat because, or feel like she might have been cheating because she didn't want to do something she thought was wrong, I think that's awesome. And so you congratulate her first, and you just point out that, hey, I think you're giving away too many calls. I think you're hurting yourself on the court. You know, everybody knows that you're an honest player. And since you have such a good reputation for making calls, and people know that you give calls, when you make a close call that you honestly think is out, people are not going to question you because they know you're not a cheater.
Right. For sure. Pete, great advice. Wonderful. I definitely echo that. So Tennis Brother 2, another question. I think he asked it twice, actually. Oh, crap. This thing keeps jumping because there's so many great questions. I don't know if you see that one yet, Pete. Oh, yeah. Recently, I played a guy who would actually slice the ball really low to my two-handed backhand side. And Tennis Brother 2 would get sucked into a slice fest and found himself, in a tough spot. And basically, how do you take back control in a situation like that?
That's a great question, because let's say you have a two-hander and you're playing a one-hander, and they're getting these low balls at you. What you want to do is look to give them something different. Because if you're giving them the same depth, the same ball back and forth, they're going to win that. They're going to win that slice battle. So and they don't get the ball as low back to you, and then you can start to take over back with your two-hand topspin ball. And then make sure that ball you hit high and you push them back. Try and get them back off the baseline, because a one-handed slice is going to have trouble with the ball. They get backed off the baseline. You can chip the ball down the line to their forehand just for one shot. Wait for a safe time to do it, and then they'll probably run over and hit a topspin forehand. Then you're back in your topspin mode. Don't just go in the slice battle, same depth, same shot, because you will lose.
That's right. And yeah, Pete, stop me, you know, if you want me to stop asking the questions. But one other really good one that I think was echoed at least once or twice too was how do you practice when you don't have a partner? Like what's some tips for that situation? So if you're practicing by yourself.
Okay. If you don't have a regular partner, here's a couple things you can and should do. First of all, I think everybody, and most people will not do this, but at least I have a shot with people on this call. Let's say it's your serve. Let's say you really are trying to get your serve down, or your forehand, but let's just say the serve. You got to improve your serve, you're thinking. Wake up in the morning, watch a slow motion video or an instructional video on a certain aspect of the serve you know that you're weak at. Close your eyes, visualize that for a couple minutes, what that looks like. Then shadow stroke it and film yourself and do an honest evaluation through an app called Coach's Eye. You can compare your motion to what you're looking at, and you can start to pick apart what needs to get better to look better. And that's what you should be doing. A lot of shadow strokes, a lot of technical developments. It's a great opportunity that you don't have people to play with, to where you can really get your technique on point. That's number one. There's always the ball machine. There's always a wall. These are things you can do when you are going to the courts and there's no one to hit with. But I have seen so many people improve. The best example, because it was so rare, because I know most kids are not going to do this, I taught this one kid, Ian Iverson, a scissor kick overhead. He had a nightmare with the overhead. He couldn't do it. He looked so clumsy. It rains for 2 weeks. He comes out 2 weeks later for a lesson. I know he hasn't played a lick of tennis. I lob the ball. He runs back smoothly, does a scissor kick overhead, and crushes it, because he went home and actually practiced a scissor kick overhead at home by himself with no racket, no ball.
Awesome stuff. Ooh, Steve, great question. I think applies to all skill levels here, because I know we mentioned, or Mark mentioned, you know, there's 4-5s on too. But Steve asked, do you think that using breathing techniques and/or grunting aids in focusing on your strokes and proper contact with the ball?
I do, especially if you believe it does. Okay, I believe it does. As far as the things that you believe work for you, they do. Kind of like that Bull Durham thing. Like if you think, you know, I forget what it was, you know, it causes your streak, then it does. You know, it is part of your streak. So the things that you think help you, if breathing makes you feel more calm, I definitely do believe in the advantages of grunting on shots, because you're releasing tension into the ball. And many of the greatest players, when especially you notice, I think even more on the female side of tennis, and I don't know why this is, but the match, as it gets closer and tighter, the best players like a Monica Seles, like a Serena Williams, Maria Sharapova, you notice that they would get louder and louder in the tense moments of the match. And I don't think it's because it was gamesmanship. I think it's because they were so nervous and they were releasing all the tension into the ball, rather than someone like a Yana Novotná, who had a classic choke at Wimbledon one year, who you could almost see her struggling to breathe because she was so nervous.
Yeah, great point there. So Mark was wondering, and I don't know, maybe perhaps this is a continuance of the presentation, but you know, what are some tips and suggestions for the path to improvement? You know, past the 3-5 level, you know, for like 4-0s and 4-5s on how to reach that next level. Like, what's next for them?
That's a great question. So I'm going to breeze through this presentation and get to the 4.0 and 4.5 development, okay? Because we have spent a lot of time giving some nice love tonight for like the 3.0, 3.5, and 4.0 entry level advice. So we've got your forehand, we've got your backhand, we've got the approach shot. The next thing is when you come to the net, you really want to start to develop angle volleys over power volleys. And then last but not least, you want to develop a really good overhead, okay? And if you've done all that, now you're definitely at a 4.0 level and a 4.5 level. And so once you start to get to this level, now the serve becomes very important, that you have a serve that definitely has spin. Your second serve at this point, see, I think at a 3.5 level, you can literally still serve the ball in like this, and if you and a lot of people are not going to attack it. But 4.0, 4.5s, you have got to now really start to figure out how you can get free points, okay? You've got to develop some weapons at this level to where you know how to get a free point. So it's I think really figuring out, like for me, I figured out, okay, my lefty slice serve, that's a serve that I can get free points, especially on the ad side, but also on the deuce side. So really tapping into what your talents are and what your weapons are, and you've got to really build your weapons. Your weapons could be a number of things, and you just have to really make sure that you pay extra attention to that to develop them. It could be your serve. It could be your return. It could just be your tenacity, that you have more energy than your opponents. Whatever your strengths are, you've got to get in your opponent's face with that. And you've got to know that under certain pressure situations that it's not going to break down. And when you do that, you'll start winning a lot more matches at the 4.0, 4.5, and 5.0 level.
Yeah, Pete, and just to jump in really quickly, I mean, I can speak to this from playing, you know, because I play in 5.0 leagues, and at that level, like pretty much everyone has a very strong serve. They have powerful serves, they have variety, they can hit it pretty much anywhere, you know, on call. Their speed is really fantastic, and you know, contrasting that with the 4.5 level, which is where, you know, they have decent spin serves, but they lack the variety, and they can't really pop one in at, you know, a too high of a speed. But at 5.0, there are very few that do not have fairly proficient serves. So that's a huge difference that Pete obviously mentioned.
Yeah, and Scott had a great question. He goes, if you got the three serves, you're developing the flat, the slice, and the kick. How do you practice them? Do you practice them all in one session, or should you develop one and then the other? And I think the answer is building the bricks. You develop one first. You go, okay, I've got this slicer. I'm working on this slicer for the next 30 days. I'm going to be obsessed with it. And when you finally start feeling that you're hitting your spots, then you're like, okay, now I'm going to work on my kick serve, you know, and then I'm going to work on my flat serve. And then once you start to get them all, it is important to eventually get to a situation to where you can practice all three of them at once. Because what happens sometimes to people, like I've seen it so many times, to where I was even working with my 11-year-old student who is really good. He was 6th in the state in 10 unders, and we've been working on a kick serve. And I had that thing looking beautiful, and then I told him to hit a flat serve. He couldn't do it anymore. And before we started the kick serve journey, he could only hit a flat serve. He couldn't hit the kick serve. So you have to keep fine-tuning all of them. Otherwise, you'll get too used to a feeling, and you won't be able to repeat the other feelings.
Great stuff. Let's see. 181 is a great one as well. So she is a 14-year-old national level player and wants to know how to handle. And yeah, and that's great stuff. And she wants to know how to handle nerves during important points so that she doesn't hold back. And, you know, are there any good resources on that, you know, whether reading or audio material that can help on an ongoing basis?
Well, there are courses out there on it. And I know Ed Sang, I think he's a mental specialist, and Ian Westerman from Essential Tennis has a mental mastery course. Jeff Sallenstein did a course on mental toughness, and I bet you that's really awesome because Jeff is a great coach. So there's courses out there. One of the best tips I got, and this guy's also a very good mental coach. I saw Jeff Greenwald give a talk, and it was about nerves and handling nerves, and it's a tip I'll never forget. So it's a quick fix, but sometimes all we need is a quick fix to just get ourselves out of a rut and feel better. And he talked about, of course, when you get nervous, you get tight in the shoulders, you get tight in the arms, breathing becomes tough. And so we usually fight that feeling. And what he recommends is in between a point, do the opposite. Embrace that feeling. Go back to your racket and squeeze it as tight as you can for like 10 seconds straight. And then see what happens. After you do that, guess what's going to happen? The shoulders are going to relax. You're probably going to sigh out a breath. You're going to be relaxed. And at least for your first time serving the ball or the first time you return in your first shot, you're probably going to feel less nervous and be able to swing out at least on the first couple of shots. And sometimes that's all you need. All you need is maybe a great serve and a great forehand. You win the point with a winner. Or sometimes all you need is a couple of good shots to get your confidence going to like, okay, I can actually settle into this point now because I served good and felt relaxed, and I hit my first forehand good and I felt good, and I think I'm straight now.
Yeah, great stuff. And I just want to point out real quick that obviously the Tennis Summit, it covers several different areas, technique, strategy, fitness, and also the mental game. So we have Jeff Greenwald here, as Pete mentioned. His session is actually on how to play the best tennis of your life. And I believe we have about 6 speakers on the mental game. We have a great one too with Emma Doyle, building your court confidence. We have one with Badri Narayanan, who works with pro players right now on using technology to help your mental game. Neil Endicott, a great one on meditation and mindfulness-based psychology. Adam Blitcher on busting the myths of tennis psychology. And also Scott Baxter, our friend, on how nerves affect your technique and what to do about it. And Alistair McCon, how to be champion-minded. So as you can see, you definitely want to tune in to the Mental Game Day, Guess 181.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That's one thing, guys. I mean, if you look below the video, you'll see an upgrade now. If you haven't already got your lifetime access to the Tennis Summit, you should. And here's why. Because there's going to be so many great talks and lessons this week. And these people that are giving these talks and lessons, see how much they cost to go spend an hour with them. Lots of these guys. So to be able to pick this up for $97 and have it for your lifetime is huge, because if you really are a student of the game, you know that listening to this stuff once is not going to do it. It's going to be things to where you're going to, it's a library of resources to where you're like, okay, I'm having trouble mentally this week. I need to go back and listen to, Alistair's presentation, because it really had some things in there that I need to hear right now. So, don't look at it as like this can be looked at, this week can be looked at as 2 things, like, oh my gosh, these guys are doing awesome things and I get to watch it for free and I'm kind of getting over on it, or you can go, these guys are putting out amazing content. They're giving me a great taste of what everything is. And I see the value in that. If I keep this in my library and actually go back and use it from time to time, I'm going to be able to find my way through tough situations in my tennis career, which is always going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously we appreciate everyone being here, but there's a free portion, which is fantastic. And, I tried my best to get so many speakers, and there's going to be I think 37 in all. But, like Pete said, it's just tough to watch them all during the summit's time. So definitely encourage, if you're interested, to get the lifetime access, because, let's say you're having trouble one day with your forehand, you can go to the forehand presentation. Maybe one day you're having trouble mentally, you can go to all the presentations on those. You want to know more about how you can construct a great fitness program, you go to that section. And that's something you can do, forever, you know, because you'll have access to all these videos and other cool stuff too. So, you know, it's obviously a great option if, you know, investing in your game with All Access Pass. So, you know, something to think about.
Very cool. Yeah. Anything else? I mean, I kind of went through the presentation. I'll be happy to take any more questions.
Gosh, this is a tough one. And as you mentioned, Pete, you do deal with children of all different income levels and backgrounds. So 647 actually asks, how do I get around parents who don't really support me and the cost of having to fund everything myself without a job? That's a tough one.
So she's 14 years old.
I don't know if that's the same one as the 14-year-old.
But she's trying to play. She's trying to play, and she's looking for funding. Is that what it is?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, how do I? Yeah, because I guess the parents won't really fund the tennis, and you know, there's no job. You know, the guest 647 doesn't have a job either. So how do you kind of keep going with your tennis game?
That is really hard. I feel that because certainly financial is a part of tennis, if we're going to be honest, especially to get high level coaching. But it can be done. I mean, I think the best blueprint anybody could look at is what Richard Williams did with his girls. You know, he took them out on his courts. He gave them certain skills, you know, but his biggest skill was he was a fantastic promoter of his girls. You can see him sending videos to Vic Braden on YouTube, basically giving reports of how the girls are doing. He reached out to Rick Macy and somehow got Rick Macy to get on a plane and come see his girls. Rick Macy was unimpressed until he saw Serena do like some double-handed backspring. And then he said, okay, I'll work with them. So if you are like really serious about the game and you do feel like you have a talent, I haven't seen you play obviously, but if you really feel that you are special, and if you just had the right coaching, you might want to do something like you know, make videos and send them out there to coaches. And of course, I'm telling you that this is a long shot, but I think it's been done once famously, to where, you know, Richard Williams knew he didn't have the money or the resources to turn his girls pros. And so he went and found an expert coach to really take them to that pro level. And then the rest is history. Yeah,
for sure. Pete, if you have more time, a good one from Yadami, who firstly said you gave great advice on the line caller. There were numerous comments of how they really appreciated that fantastic advice, where, you know, the individual was calling balls good, you know, when they were out. So Yadami asks, how do you help high school players, because Yadami is a coach, maximize their learning in a match that they know they're going to lose? You know, you step out against another school and there's clearly a level above. And so Yadami says that he or she is getting there, asking them to plan each point and judge themselves on execution, but is there more?
That's great. Here is my best advice, and it's going to be hard because the kids are young. It's high school. This advice, I realize, is a little bit idealistic, but I know it spoke to one of my students because I told him the same thing. And now this year he won regions. He started play tennis as a freshman, didn't even make the team as a freshman. Then this year he played number 2, and his team's won region twice in a row. And what I told him is, I said, because I could see that he really loved the game, and I said, Gaines, you know, I really see you being a great player at age 30. And I said, and I see you being in this sport for the rest of your life, because I can see how much you love it. Because he didn't make the team when I told him this. He didn't make the team. And so he wasn't even able to even go out and play a match and get his butt kicked. He didn't make the team, but I could see that he loved tennis. And I told him this, and I could tell it made him feel better. And ever since then, he's had a spark in his eye and has worked even harder with his tennis. And I honestly believe that. A lot of the kids that you look at right now that are flat out ballers and kicking butt, they're going to peak in high school and college, And not that there's anything even wrong with this, because they will still take the lessons they learn from tennis from the rest of their lives. It's going to be part of their identity. It's going to be part of the way they set goals. It's going to be part of the way they deal with life situations. But a lot of them are going to be burned out after college, and they might not ever pick up a racket again, or it might be 20 years later when they pick up a racket. Where lots of kids who catch the bug in high school, if you can just stop them from being discouraged, they're going to stick with the game and get better and better and better and be the best players at the club and keep improving. And I think that if you can really get them to buy into that it's okay if you go out there and get your butt kicked, because, you know, let's just keep working on our game in practice. And our goal is a lifetime goal. Our goal is not to win states. That's not why our team is formed.
Right. Beautiful advice, Pete. So a great question from Barbara, and echoed by, I guess, 559. They were actually wondering kind of administratively, like how, you know, when during the day that each topic will be live online. So basically the videos will be released at 8 a.m. Each day, and then you can watch them, and they'll be obviously on there. I'll send you daily emails so that, you know, basically once you receive the email, that's when you can click on the presentations and watch them, and they'll be online for 48 hours. And then that's where, obviously, you know, if you want lifetime access to them, like we mentioned, all you have to do is just click the button below this video, so that you can have all 37 videos basically as a resource to always refer to. So very good question. But yeah, basically every morning at 8 a.m. Eastern is when they'll be released, and you'll get an email for that. So yeah.
Awesome.
Good stuff. Oh, a fun one, 603. It's about the Pro Tour, Pete. So sooner or later, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and Murray will retire. So who among the next crop of players do you like, Pete, and you think will emerge as the guy to beat?
I don't know.
I'm placing a bet based on this, Pete, so please get this right.
Okay. Here's my thoughts on it. There's been a couple of interesting comments that have spoke to me about this whole topic. First of all, Rafa kind of made a joke, you know, like, what, you know, why are the veterans not playing Davis Cup? And he basically said, you know, when they were younger, me and Rafa, we used to play. I mean, me and Roger used to play, and, you know, now we're older. He says the best players on tour are older. It's the truth. It's not funny. It's just the truth, you know? And so I'm really worried about, I think the game will be fine, but it does bother me that no one's taking it from these guys. And these guys are like legitimately old now in the sport. I mean, they just are. And ever since I can remember, you had the young gun come up and just take it. I remember the first time I really got into tennis, McEnroe started to beat Borg, and that got me interested. And then Lendl took it from Mac. And then Becker came on and started to take it and be in the mix. He didn't completely take over, but I remember him winning Wimbledon at 17. And you're like, who is this guy? And let's see, then you had Sampras come on and start hitting 120 mile an hour second serves, and clearly was special. And Federer, obviously, and Nadal and Djokovic, and then Murray a little bit. But no one's doing it. I mean, there's the thing that the tour has always had is tremendous talent and potential. You've always had players on tour. You're like, why isn't that guy a champion? They're so talented. They're so fun to watch. And that's all we keep getting, though, on the tour. We don't see anybody break through and be the real deal. And it's bothering me. It just is. I'm like, where is the next real deal? I don't know. Dimitrov even said, you know, that with Roger and Rafa playing, you know, he wants them to play. He wants to beat the best. You know, to be the best, you have to beat the best. And I love that he said that, and he did win the World Tour Finals, and I love Dimitrov. But somebody go out there and actually start beating the best consistently, because it almost feels like we're going to have our next, you know, crop of players, they're going to take over the game by default. It's going to be, it almost to me feels like handing off the tour to the scab team. And maybe I'll change my mind when they leave and I'll be more positive about it. But that's just what I'm feeling right now. And I'm hoping that someone like a Denis Shapovalov, who's extremely fun to watch, can start to win as well, besides being flashy, because we need someone young to really take over.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah, I mean, personally, I hope that Francis Tiafoe, does, takes over, just because he's from Maryland, but also he's a pretty cool player. Interesting technique, but obviously, works for him. Let's see. Ooh, Steve has a great question. Do you think that there's not enough serve and volley being taught on a young level specifically?
Yes, I do. It's one of the things that Federer points out, like why he can still dominate, is he's got that part of his game developed, and he's used it more and more as he has gotten older, and he feels like it's one of the big separators, one of the things that he's very comfortable doing, and that he can get points. And so I think it is hurting the tour. On the same point, though, with as much as I've ripped the tour, the players are so complete today. It's not like these guys have terrible volleys. They are pretty good at everything. That is what makes it tough to win, is everybody is pretty darn good at everything. So it's not like coaches are not doing their job and not doing a good job developing good volleys, because they obviously are. There's lots of great players out there on the tour right now with fantastic volleys. But I do think, in general, as a tactic, that besides coming in behind a big forehand, that people should try and serve and volley more, serve and actually run to the net and try and win the point there, because it will just add another element of surprise to their game, and not enough people do it. For sure.
One other one to sneak it in here. I guess 559. Obviously, a really fun player, Kyrgios. Do you think Kyrgios will ever get to the top and win more? I mean, we know he's had a bunch of, breakdowns and whatnot, but he shows flashes of brilliance. And so, yeah, what do you think about Kyrgios, Pete?
I think Kyrgios will not. I think he's a mess, and it's a shame, because I really like him. I think he's an interesting character, and what I like about him for the game is that there is no in between. People are either going to go, I hate that guy, or I love that guy, kind of like a Charles Barkley. And if you look at the tour and you look at it like Star Wars, where you had the Empire, the evil Empire versus what were the other ones? Jedis, or what would their land be called? But basically good versus evil. And when I was growing up in the 80s, it was evil. Evil was ruling the empire. McEnroe, Connors, Nastasi a little bit. So you had these crazy people and these crazy personalities, which was obnoxious but very interesting to watch. And now the tour has been so good, which I also love. I prefer the good side. I always did root for the Jedis. But it would be interesting to see, like Kyrgios, like a Darth Vader type character, start to win and dominate. I think it would spark some interest into the sport. It would get people fired up. But the guy is just, he's not going to get consistent with it. I think physically things are out of his control, and it looks like he's going to be injury prone. And mentally, I also think things are out of his control. I think he has legitimate problems that shouldn't be made fun of, that should be empathized with, and he'll be the first one to admit that he has them. So, and I think to be a champion week in and week out, you can't have those two issues.
Yeah, totally, Pete. Well, some incredible questions, guys. Don't see any new ones at the moment, but Peter, are there any other, closing points or anything you want to mention as well, like as far as the theme of the kickoff here?
Just that everybody on the call tonight is special, and I really believe that. The more I get to know you guys, I've been coaching more and more where people are following me online. They come meet me and take lessons. Recently, I've had a lady named Mary come in, and Bryant, who's on the call tonight. And what I'm realizing about these people more and more is they're a different breed. They love tennis like crazy, and they're willing to do things that most, I will say this in a loving way, that most normal people are not willing to do. Most normal people are going to go play their once a week tennis. They don't have any thought of going online to learn. They don't look to get better. They don't get obsessed with an idea. And I love obsession. I'm obsessed with getting better at a lot of things in my life. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's the only way you really can get to another level, rather than just being satisfied with the level you're at. So all I can tell you guys is make the most out of it. The way you're going to make the most out of it is try and make as many sessions as possible. But if you can't make a lot of them because life gets in the way, get lifetime access. Don't be cheap about your education, because this is going to be far cheaper than going to take a week's worth of lessons at your local courts. If you went and took 2 lessons this week, you're going to spend more money than you would on this. And I just saw one of the names up there is Craig O'Shaughnessy. Craig O'Shaughnessy goes to every single major and has every data point on every player, and he's going to talk about it. I mean, right there, that's worth $97. So enjoy it, learn, and rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Don't watch once and go, oh, that was fun. If you really want to get better, immerse yourself in the information.
Yeah, I mean, it's really wise words, Pete. You know, obviously you also have incredible people like Paul Annacone, who coached, you know, Pete Sampras and Roger Federer, you know, to multiple Grand Slams, and also Tim Henman. I mean, the knowledge that this guy has, that he, you know, I just feel like, you know, even for me, even getting one tip that I can use and then better my game, for me, that's worth so much, you know, like more than, you know, thousands of dollars. So really, because just the happiness of it. So, you know, it's just obviously, you know, check out the summit. But, you know, if you really do want to improve, I really highly suggest you just click the green button below, and, you know, purchase it and really invest in your game. That's what you're doing, investing in your game, in your happiness, and in, you know, your improvement. So obviously really highly suggest that you check out the All Access Pass. Really good deal. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you again for putting this on, because it is a lot of work. And you can tell that you're doing it for all the right reasons, that you have a passion for tennis and a passion to serve the community. So I want to thank you and congratulate you.
Thank you so much, Pete. Obviously, you do the same and more. I mean, yeah, again, like I mentioned at the top of the Q&A, which, wow, it's running an hour and a half. So, but you know, you're just so passionate. You run all these clinics, amazing clinics, down in Georgia. Some of them even free. You open them up for people to come and enjoy the game, and you're creating incredible content online, and while you're coaching people in person. And I can tell, you know, you're at the game, you know, you're involved in the game for, like, I don't know, man, like 20 hours a day or something. It's crazy, but you love it, and I love it. And that's why it's so great to connect with you and have this session here, live stream, and to have you on the summit, and all the things you're doing. Just really appreciate that. So thank you so much, Pete, for everything. And also to the audience for hanging out with us. Without you, this definitely was not possible. So, yeah, good stuff, Pete. Well, all right. Yeah, I appreciate it. And guys, we'll see you all at the summit. Definitely click the green button below if you're interested in getting lifetime access. And thank you so much. I'm seeing you all on the screen. Thank you. And just really get everything you can out of the summit. Just some legends on this thing. So thank you. And thank you, Pete. And everyone have a fantastic night or evening, depending on where you're from, or maybe even morning. So all the best, everyone. And thank you, Pete.